Howdy everyone, the time is 9:35 p.m. and it is September 13th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. It's been a little while. It's been relatively quiet and it's going to remain quiet for quite a few days, which is, I guess, a positive, so that's a good thing. But you have noticed over the past couple of days it has been quite cold. Monday, temperatures only reached 62 degrees. Signs of fall. Well, frankly, I don't think anyone's going to really tell that fall is around for the next several days. I think we're going to see heat start to build into the area, and then we are also going to see, well, the potential for another cool down to come near the beginning of October, looking at the long range models. Now, I don't want to be too certain about that in the long range, but in the short range, it does look like it's going to get pretty heated up. So we're going to look into all of those different things in this latest forecast update. Don't forget to subscribe. That's what keeps this whole thing going. So make sure that you subscribe to keep updated on what is coming our way. All right, we are going to dive right in with what is going on in the latest models on Pivotal Weather. So this is Pivotal Weather's website. You can get this information for yourself right here. I'm going to look at the upper levels first of all. I want to show you what it looks like currently based on the latest model run. So you can see that we're still kind of in this trough. Temperatures were relatively cool yesterday, and they were cool today in the mid-70s, but dropping back down into the 60s quickly this evening. That's all due to this upper level trough that's bringing cooler air in the upper levels and is allowing it to sink into parts on the surface. So that is what is taking place here in the Great Lakes region right now, but that's going to quickly change. Okay, if you look at the how the model progresses a little bit forward, you can kind of see this ridge starting to build in. Okay, this upper level ridge where it's going to be warmer air. Okay, this warmer air in the upper levels of the atmosphere is going to influence our weather quite significantly over the next several days, because it's really just going to sit over our area. So if you look here, the upper levels of the atmosphere, 500 millibars, you can see that there's warmer temperatures than normal in the Great Lakes region according to the GFS model. And it's going to really, as we continue into Friday and Saturday, you can really see it just it kind of stagnates and remains over the area. And in fact, by the time we get to Monday, it strengthens quite significantly. So we are going to see a buildup of heat over the next several days across pretty much most of the Great Lakes region, with little rainfall. Okay, so there's not going to be much rain over the next several days, especially with how deep this ridge becomes. There's not really any trough or anything around this area that's going to really impact our weather over the next couple of days. Now this trough here we're going to have to pay attention to. It may impact parts of the Upper Peninsula, but I still think the Great Lakes region is going to miss out on this trough right here. So it's going to be warm over the next several days with not really much rainfall potential. And then we're going to have to pay attention to this development of this trough, this really deep trough that's going to kind of break apart, well, going to kind of push this ridge out of the area, and we're going to see a very cool air mass return maybe near the end of September. Now this is long range. I don't want to really affirm that for the truth, but if this does happen, we're going to see a heat wave over the next several days, a late season heat wave, followed by a sudden, quick cool down that will bring much cooler air into the Great Lakes region, much around what you would see around the beginning of October. But I do think the air that's going to be coming in with this trough here will be cold. CFS model also agrees. We'll look at the CFS model in just a minute, but we can really see that there will be a change late in September that we will have to watch out for, but for now, we're going to be dealing with this heat wave that could be occurring in the Great Lakes region over the next few days. All right, so here's what I want to do. I want to go to a temperature graphic. Looking at this temperature graphic, so the sun's going down. This is around 1 p.m. Sun is down. Temperature is going to drop pretty deep into lower levels, so down into the mid 50s across parts of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, upper 50s. So a cool evening. Upper Peninsula, it's in the 40s, so it's going to be kind of cold up there. You progress this forward, you can see it kind of warms up even close to parts 80 degrees tomorrow on Wednesday. That's, again, you have that ridge starting to build in. You can really see that plume of warm air off to the west where temperatures are getting into the 90s. Again, this is the heat index that's shown here, so the heat index does not really tell us what is the actual air temperature, but it does show what it's going to feel like based on the humidity levels that exist in the atmosphere and how sticky it is as well. So by the time we get to nightfall, once again, temperatures actually could get a little bit colder Wednesday evening in the 40s across parts of Michigan. So there might be a little bit of a change in that regard. Still remaining warm off to the west. And then by the time we get to Thursday, you can see low 80s start to filter into Indiana and lower Michigan, parts of southern Ohio as well. And then another night goes through. Temperatures are starting to rise slowly, you can see. Then we start to see the temperatures build, okay? So we're getting into Saturday now. Mid 80s across much of the Great Lakes region. And then by the time we get into Sunday and Monday, look, by the time we get later into the next week, early next week, I think we'll be making a run at some 90s across parts of the Great Lakes region. So you have 96 that feels like reading in northwestern Indiana. It's going to feel like summer even in some parts of these areas. Southern Michigan, 90s, again, is going to feel like that across this area. And then look out here in the plains. You've got temperatures feeling like 100 degrees out there. This is not normally what you'd see for mid to late September, but the forecast models are projecting that this heat will build in to the area. All right. Now, will this have an impact on an upcoming cold front later in the month? That is what I'm going to be watching, because I think we could see a pretty decent storm system evolve from this heat event in the Great Lakes region, and I'm going to want to keep a close eye on later model runs to see if that trough will have anything to do with, I showed you earlier, that trough is going to have anything to do with a later storm system later in the month. Now, we can't confirm that. It's definitely not certain yet. We still are way too far out to make any confirmations on that. But you kind of see by the 21st, a cold front or a little bit of a cooler air mass kind of takes over. So you get into Michigan, temperatures drop into the 70s, but then a quick change in Indiana and Ohio from 70s to 90s. I do want to watch that carefully, because that could spell some interesting weather setups for late next week. So Thursday the 22nd, I'm going to want to be on watch for potential for maybe some thunderstorms, not sure. We'll look at a precipitation graphic in a minute, but look as we get into later. So you still see those heat indexes climb up into the 80s. It's going to kind of just sit in northern Indiana and southern or parts of Indiana and Ohio, whereas Michigan kind of cools off later near September 24th. And then look how quickly the temperatures will start to drop later in the month. Okay, so late in the month, you can really see by nightfall, this is 1 a.m., we're getting temperatures around freezing across parts of Wisconsin. The first freezes are starting to appear on the models, and look how far quickly it drops. Okay, so once this trough starts to kind of dig in to the Great Lakes region, you can see temperatures are really going to start to cool down, and even the CFS is showing maybe some snow across parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota associated with the steep trough. Now, keep in mind, this is the long-range model, okay? So the long-range model does not accurately project what is to happen, but it does look like our first freeze could potentially be showing up on the models, but I do want to wait, because normally we get it a little later than this time frame. But these models are showing that, followed by another later warm up. So that's what the GFS is showing for the long range, but what we can know for the short range, that we're going to have a brief heat wave move through, or kind of an extended heat wave move across parts of the Great Lakes region during the middle of next week, during the time of the St. Joe County Fair, which most of you are probably going to be attending. It is going to be hot, all right? You're going to want to pay attention to that as that event is taking place. Probably one of the best fairs in the area of southwest Michigan. So, all right, let's move into what the precipitation type and rate looks like for the GFS model, because I do want to pay attention to the time that cold front kind of progresses through. That is kind of being shown by the model. So Sunday, it is showing some rain off to the north in parts of Michigan. And then I do want to pay attention to how that storm system kind of doesn't really show any type of extreme or good intensity yet on the models, but I do want to watch that just to be safe. Here's where kind of a frontal boundary kind of shows up. Get a sounding of that. You do see they are low top storms, so not really too much potential for high top storms that could really pack a punch, but the cloud bases also look really high too. Does not look very conducive for severe weather development. So, but that cold front will bring some dramatic changes later in the month. But for now, we're going to deal with that heat. Let's look at the CFS real quick so I can show you that potential for what some of the models are projecting to be snow across parts of the upper Midwest, so Wisconsin and Minnesota. Again, this is the height anomalies. This is showing the long range, which again is agreeing with what the GFS is saying as well. So this trough moves out, we get that ridge building in, and it kind of just sits there for an extended period of time and even intensifies. The CFS shows something a little bit different. It shows a little bit cooler air mass in the southern portion of the United States, whereas a warmer air mass sits in the parts of the Great Lakes region. It's a little bit different, but it still does show that buildup of heat as well. And then it shows the return of a cooler air mass near the beginning of October across the Great Lakes region. So good to watch there, as with the long range CFS, kind of getting an idea of what the long range looks like there. Now, let's look at the precipitation type and rate that is shown here. So we're tracking this a little bit forward, this model. Wait for it to render real quick, but this is kind of the current situation here. We've got a large high pressure system that's starting to move away from the area, but there's going to be a high pressure system also building in from the south, which is what is going to drive our warm temperatures, that really large ridge that's going to be sitting over the area. So you can see it kind of settles in to the area. We've got that plume of warm air sitting over the area. Then later on, by the time we get to later in the year or later in the month, we see that cold front that looks like it's going to set up. Then that cool down, and the CFS is actually showing the first hints of snow across parts of northern Minnesota. Now, I think it's probably going to be later than this, but it is showing that blue with this low pressure system that'll be coming from the north. So it's going to be something we want to watch for. That 540 line is something we watch for when winter starts to come around for snow potential. I don't think it's going to be enough for snow in the Great Lakes region, and it's only October 11th. We've got a long ways to go before we are really capable of seeing heavy snow anywhere south of the Upper Peninsula. So just an interesting graphic to pay attention to with the latest model runs. Those computers are really showing a lot of different things, but just a little quick update in regards to all of the upcoming events in the Great Lakes region. Again, quiet week, but getting hot. So that's pretty much the extent of this forecast. So hopefully this video was helpful to you in getting all this helpful information out. Make sure to like and subscribe, because that will keep this thing going. And I will see you all a little bit later. Also, be sure to check out all of the videos I'm making. There's some educational resources I'm trying to put together on my YouTube channel. Make sure to check out the Great Lakes Weather Classroom playlist, and maybe we'll get you some basic weather information from there. So, see you all later.